Thank you, Dee. And so before I invite work camp campers and staff up, I just want to spend a little time talking about our devotions for the week. And so as our reading shared there about, it takes an expert sometimes to see the value that is in something. And so this week, our theme was Give Me Your Eyes, right? And it was looking at seeing the world, seeing people, seeing ourselves through the eyes of God, right? Through the eyes of the expert, through the eyes of the Creator. And so it started just working off of, the theme came from David's anointing. And so way back, right, before Goliath, before David is playing his harp in King Saul's court, God had rejected King Saul, and he sent the prophet Samuel out to find the next king. And as God sent him out, saying that he was looking for a man after his own heart and those sorts of things, he gets sent to the house of Jesse. And after an offering and a sacrifice to the Lord, Jesse begins to bring his sons in front of Samuel. And the first one that's brought, and I'm assuming he's the oldest because he was first, is Eliab. And as Eliab is brought, Samuel says, "Surely this is the one that the Lord has chosen." And the Lord stops him and corrects him and says, "No, Samuel." He says, "You need to look again." He says, "Do not look on the outward appearance, right? Do not look at his height or his strength, or how good looking he is. The world looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." And so we were looking to see things the way that God sees them. And so Monday, Ryan just spent some time on that. Right, and you guys know how important the heart is, how important motivation or motives are. We talked when we were working through the Sermon on the Mount after Easter, and I introduced you guys to the word hypocrite. Right, where our definition of hypocrite is someone who says one thing and does another. Jesus' definition of a hypocrite is someone who said one thing, they did it, but they did it for the wrong reasons. Right? And so the Lord looks at the heart. He looks at motive. He looks at all of those things, right? And so that's what we're looking at. And so Ryan touched on that Monday. Tuesday, our theme for Tuesday was how God sees me. Looking at ourselves through God's eyes. And so in that, Sherry spent some time on the 139th Psalm. And just working through how we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and how God had knit us together. And is it that psalm that even says that like He has the hairs on our head numbered, which is getting easier and easier for me, anyways. But yeah, and so right, but like how complex we are, right? How complex it is, and how marvelous and precious we are. Right? And so that's how God views us. Right? And so there's the thing there in one, viewing ourselves that way, but two, also viewing other people that way. Right? On Wednesday, we stepped away from David for a little bit and looking at how God sees justice and mercy. We went into the woman that was brought to Jesus who was caught in adultery. And I got to give them credit. I said a little bit of a trap right at the beginning of the devotional. The first question I asked was, why was this woman brought to Jesus? And none of them fell for the trap, right? Because the trap would be, she was brought because she was caught having an affair. But that's not why she was brought to Jesus. She was brought to Jesus because the scribes and the Pharisees wanted to trap Jesus. And so, the scriptures say that. She was brought so that they could trap him. Right? And so Jesus, right, in his wisdom, sees right through the trap. These people that are coming to him crying justice. Right? We demand justice. She has broken the law. She needs to be punished for breaking the law. But Jesus saw right through it that they didn't actually truly want justice. They just wanted something that met their selfish needs. And Jesus handed out true justice, legitimate justice in that moment by showing her mercy. Right? And then after the crowd escapes and or disperses and it's just him and her, then he sits down and has a conversation with her about, this life that she has chosen to live, and he tells her to go and leave your life of sin. And so we see Jesus, executing mercy and legitimate justice, right, within that story. Thursday, which is, I was putting this together, ended up becoming my favorite day. And so Thursday we looked at how God sees sin. And I loved it because when we were looking at Psalm 103, for me it kind of flipped the script a little bit. And so, because I think there's a part of us, especially within our culture, especially within the culture that I grew up in growing up, where when we talk about how God views sin, we view God as this just super angry, vengeful being who is just up in heaven, sitting on the edge of his seat, just waiting to punish everything that we do. Like, is there anybody that's familiar with that version of God? Like, have you ever been in a conversation with someone, right, and somebody starts to say something and you're like, you better watch out because you're going to get struck by lightning, right? We say that because we expect God to be that angry, vengeful God, right? He's just up there waiting to pull a lightning bolt out of his quiver and send it because somebody's doing the wrong thing, right? And so the kids didn't quite get that reference, and so the reference I pulled out was karma is and they all shook their head like, yeah, like we see that one, they knew that one, right? And so karma, or at least the version of karma that we've accepted to our culture, gets that, right? Where somebody does something bad, and so karma is just waiting there to even the scales and punish the bad thing that they did, right? But that's not what Psalm 103 says. Right, that's not what David tells us about God. Psalm 103 says that, and I'm starting at verse 6 here, but it says that the Lord works righteousness and justice for all who are oppressed. He made known his ways to Moses, his acts to the people of Israel. The Lord is merciful. The Lord is merciful and gracious. He's slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. He will not always chide, nor will he keep his anger forever. He does not deal with us according to our sins, or repay us according to our iniquities. I'll pause there real quick. Karma deals with us according to our sins. Right? Karma repays us for our iniquities. Right? At least the version of karma that's in our culture. Right? But God, for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his steadfast love toward those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far does he remove our transgressions from us. As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him. Right? Like the 103rd Psalm gives this picture of this God who, yeah, he's in heaven, and yeah, he's eagerly waiting to distribute something, but he's eagerly waiting to distribute grace and mercy and forgiveness. But it is only to those who fear him, right? Not everyone gets to participate in that, right? But it's not a God with a quiver full of lightning bolts who's quick to anger. It's a God who's slow to anger and generous in mercy and grace. And so that's where we were at Thursday. And then Friday, Ken Peck closed us out with just how do we see God? And we looked at Psalm 145, where David is just praising God for his goodness and his deliverance and everything that he gives. And that's really where we're going to end this morning. Our closing song is just going to be that, just praising God for his goodness and his grace, and just thanking him for everything that it is that he gives for us and he does for us. But that's where our devotions were and where our theme were this morning. And thank you for letting me take some time to share it with you. But at this moment, I want to invite those that are here from work camp up. Willie is on top of it this morning. And so I invite you guys up here to line up. And so as they're coming up, I think the thing that I'm most excited to talk about here is just our food for this week. And so just so much appreciation for the food that we had this week. Dwight made the comment earlier in the week that he'd come into this week hoping to lose weight. And after he saw the spread that we were eating for breakfast every morning, he recognized that wasn't going to happen. And so I mean, like, just first off, right away, Monday morning for breakfast, we get in there, and the breakfast crew has a pile of bacon for us to eat. It was bacon, yeah. All right, and they make us. There were like throughout the weeks, like when they did pancakes, took the time to make us blueberry pancakes. The sausage links that they had for us, like they weren't the itty bitty sausage links, like they were hefty sausage links for breakfast in the morning. And Josie, her daughter who lives in Arizona, came out to help with breakfast. And she had made this, I forget, it was chili something. I forget the name of it. I could never pronounce it correctly. But it was like have you ever gone for Mexican and gotten enchiladas? And it was like tortillas with the red sauce that they put over, and the queso they put over top of the enchiladas. She did it in a red sauce and a green sauce, and she did it to put over top of our eggs. I am not a big breakfast eater. I was a big breakfast eater this week. Just, it was fantastic. All right? And then on top of that, I mean, we had chicken pot pie one night for supper. We had some of the leftover spaghetti from the mother-daughter friend banquet, loaded with meatballs. That was fantastic. Mac and cheese 2 nights. And Thursday night was pulled pork and mac and cheese. And the pulled pork came from a professional chef. And so I'm pretty sure, right? And so it was Ken Slazeman and his son Nate made it. And Nate's an actual chef. And it... Like, some of these kids were saying it was the best pulled pork they've ever eaten in their life. And, I mean, I'm not a big fan of pulled pork, but it was really good pulled pork. All right? And so just, and then to top all of that off, we stayed an extra night. And so rather than pulling the campers out Friday, we stayed an extra night and just had a night at the campground, just the adults. And Dwight and Sherry hooked us up with a shrimp boil with corn on the cob and potatoes, and Ken made burgers, and just, we ate really, really well. Right? Like, the comment that I made one morning at breakfast was, you guys have heard the way that I talk about food and how sometimes I describe that food is like a spiritual experience for me. And after eating breakfast one morning, I said, I don't think I need to go to church on Sunday. It was that, right? And so just so good. The food that we had, just absolutely fantastic. And so with that, and so I'm going to hand things off to the crew that we have up here. I'm going to start down with Katera, and I'm just going to let them tell you guys their stories from the week.
This week I hauled Lacey around to different job sites so she could do the video. I also made sure all the food was lined up for the evening meals. And Heather was a big help for me this week. She made sure the meals got out to us in the evenings, the other 3 nights that the ladies group didn't do. And yes, they were in, Sherry and Danny and Kenny were in heaven with that breakfast thing. I don't know what it was. Sherry saw it back in the kitchen, and she came out and was telling them about it, and she goes, Katera won't like it. And then Danny saw it, and he goes, yeah, you're right, Katera won't like it. I'm like, nope, didn't touch it. The kids did great this week. There was not all the usual drama that I've been used to over the years. They all did great, worked well together. Very proud of them.
My favorite part about this week was just staying on this one job, was a deck, and I had to wait for Danny to get the wood, which he took forever to get. And then during that break, I got to see a dog named Chica, and she would leap on top of you to lick your face and get her tongue inside of your mouth and then she would leap on top of another person, and then leap on top of another person to a point where she got on my back, and I could not get up. Otherwise, she's gonna fall. She's like adorable little cute tiny little puppy.
I don't really know my favorite part, but I did rip my shorts while I was working on the deck. So yeah.
I got 3 stories, and the first one memorable thing is that whenever Dallas found out you can buy a cap gun down at the store, and I have like a whole like a little pouch full of like the cap things because he left them all over the tent, and also this is in the work site. I got to go to Gary's and build his deck, and I got to see one of his planes, and also. This is apparently to Ian, but I don't remember the story. It was like almost on the last day. I woke up apparently at 2 a.m. and I don't remember it, but I was trying to move my air mattress around and I hit him across the head. And then he told me to go back down, and I kind of body slammed my mattress back down to on the floor of the tent. And then I looked at him and I just fell back asleep.
Building decks, going to Floral Lake. No, we went to Floral. Laurel Lake. Shooting cap guns, and hanging out with Dallas and Willie on the swings. All right, Dallas.
I don't know what my favorite part is. I just like helping people that need it, and yeah, that's it.
I wasn't exaggerating. This one? Okay. I wasn't exaggerating when I said that ibuprofen was my best friend because I was hurting. I was a hurting pup. I'll tell you that. Yeah, it rained a lot. I have a gland problem. I wear I switch off bandanas because I sweat so much, and of course some of the kids were making fun of me. But I had them work, and this guy here. Willie was my cut man. I put them on the saw. They did the miter saws, the screw guns. I actually had who else? Riley and Haley. Then you showed up. Yeah, Dallas was there. There he is. But we had them working, and they were ripping. I'll tell you what, we actually got a rhythm going. And I actually had Riley and Haley making measurements, doing the cuts also, getting everything done, and get in there and get your hands dirty. That's what it's about. But no, Ken and I mean, I'll let Ken say some about it. But and the breakfast was very good. Yes, salsa verde, the green stuff, salsa verde. Here you go.
This is my first year being an adult, and I say the best thing was just to see how all the kids were hardworking, even though it was hot out. It didn't seem like it affected them one bit. Just the drive and the dedication they had to either, if it was building deck or dealing with firewood where we had no shade, they worked their butts off until we said it was done. And no matter what, they'd ask for breaks every now and then, but other than that, they just stayed on task and helped us through. And altogether, it was fun to watch them get along, play the games, stuff like that. So all in all, it was a great week.
I agree with everything he just said. They worked very hard. They did their absolute best, and they did it a lot of times with a smile on their face, so you can't ask for more than that. And I also wanted to say that for Wednesday night devotion, Lacey stepped up, and she led our devotion that night, which I was very excited for her to do that. She did a fantastic job. But truly, you have an incredible group of kids in front of you who worked their heinies off and did a fantastic job for this week.
The rest of us kind of sweated ours off. Anyhow, my week didn't start out real good, but I won't go into that big, long story. And needless to say, it cost me some money at the beginning of the week. But we had a group of kids here that a little bit of complaining, a little bit of okay, but when it come down to it, it was work. So they took their breaks. Well, we all kind of wandered off and took our own little breaks, right, Danny? And then just hats off to them for working. And I agree with Whitey. If you need a cut man on something, Willie's your guy. I'm telling you what, he got. You told him exactly what you needed, and he was over and he cut it. So, but other than you'll see in the video some of the stuff Mr. Willie was doing, he was helping me a good bit. He was a big help. So, yeah, it was a good week.
So I had a good time at camp, but my favorite part was going to Heather's because I was able to play with her cats and I had a lot of fun with them.
So my most favorite part was Thursday night when my favorite person in the entire world came, and that was Robin. And so I got to hang out with her. With Dwight talking, it was very not cute to see him wringing out his sweat rags when there were puddles on the ground afterwards and multiple times. So, and then in the video, you guys will probably see there is a pair of nostrils in the video. I'd just like to say I didn't record that. That was your pastor, Danny. Yeah.
So this was also my first year being an adult. Crazy, right? I remember my first year ever helping out back in 2012 when I was a little kid. Danny made an exception because my mom stayed the night. So little me, 9 to 10 years old, helping out. I was always the accident prone. First year falling through the roof of the church. But yeah, we had a good year. Nobody got injured for the most part. I will say, just a different perspective from being bossed around as a kid, like working your butt off, to actually being able to drive them around and help them out whenever they needed it. They come to you if they have any questions, was awesome. And then my favorite game probably had to be the game where we were all in a circle linking arms, and we had this object in the middle, and the goal was to get them to touch it so they'd be out. It rained that day, so the grass was a little slippery, and I had shoes with no traction. So everybody here who's I'm like twice their size, they were throwing me around like a rag doll. So that was pretty fun, just having a good time with that.
So I did the games in the evenings for the kids this year, which is a different role than I normally take. I also made the shirts. But I decided to do some different games than what they're used to. So we didn't do soccer, we didn't do volleyball. We did other games that were a little more interesting. So Monday night with the heat, I decided they were going to get Frozen t-shirts and try to get them on as fast as they could. So then Tuesday we took those shirts and tie-dyed them because they were all grass-stained and messy. But I think the favorite game I did was the blindfolded obstacle course. So they were paired up with a partner, and they had to take their partner through said obstacle course only with their words. They couldn't touch them. Which out of all the kids, I would trust Willie to lead me around if I was blind. He did a pretty good job leading his partner through pretty quickly. Under 2 minutes. So, yeah, it was a fun week.
I am amazed at these kids are just awesome. They're so kind. And the first 2 days were excruciatingly hot. And my crew was the grunt and growl crew because we had to pull up these boards, and it was really hard. So I was making some noise. And so yeah, I'm really proud of these guys. They were really awesome. And I think for me personally, the thing I enjoyed the most was I learned manspeak. My husband doesn't allow me to use power tools. So I was on the saw, and Pastor Danny called out what he needed. He said 143.5. So my woman brain was thinking 1 quantity, 43. That was not it. So I learned man speak this week.
She was at least smart enough to not cut the board, because when she measured it out, it ended up being this long. She's like, I'm pretty sure he wants something longer than that. And so she wasn't fully understanding why, I'd yell out 143 and then I'd yell out 12, but the 12 was longer than the 140, right? Which actually 12 is 144. But Ken Miller's on the saw, and I'm just yelling what I need, and he knows whether it's inches or feet. But she got it down, then she was reliable on the saw, and we were able to keep moving. So, but yeah, give these guys a round of applause, please. You guys can go ahead and sit down. And Troy, Bob, I'm going to ask you to start our video.